Hello and welcome to Monday's Granada Reports. We're live with the news in the northwest.
Hello, here's what's coming up on the programme this evening.
96-year-old June Mills' dangerous driving killed another pensioner. One of the oldest people to be sentenced for the offence, she's spared jail with the court's hearing of her great shame and guilt.
The lead singer of The Alarm has lived with cancer for nearly 30 years. Tonight, he's in remission after a drugs trial.
Miraculous, and I'm so grateful to Professor Bloor and the team here at the Christie for giving me that chance at life.
What it takes to keep the world's oldest topiary garden in tip-top condition.
And it's certainly been a wet start to the working week with very heavy rainfall in our part of the world. Better news on the horizon over the next few days. I'll have all the details later on in the programme.
So please do stay with us. Well, first tonight, an utter tragedy were the words used by a judge in Liverpool today as he sentenced a 96-year-old woman for causing death by dangerous driving.
Yeah, June Mills from Ainsdale near Southport killed another pensioner when her car mounted the pavement as they left a church.
Her barrister told the court that the consequences will haunt the retired careers advisor forever.
Our correspondent Rob Smith was at today's hearing.
One of the oldest people to ever be convicted of causing death by dangerous driving was spared going to jail today. A judge in this court said that common sense and a just outcome meant that a suspended sentence could be passed instead. June Mills, who's 96 and from Ainsdale, seen here in a wheelchair, was driving away from her bridge club in Formby last year when she sped up in her Vauxhall Corsa and mounted the pavement. She hit two of her fellow bridge club players. One of those, Brenda Joyce, was 76 years old. Mrs. Joyce struck her head on the windscreen of the car and then she was dragged beneath the wheels. A retired doctor who witnessed what happened, whose car was hit by Mills in the process of all this, tried to help, but nothing could be done. In the end, the fire service had to lift Mills' car off of Mrs. Joyce. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The second victim, Jennifer Ensor, who's 80, was injured but survived. The court heard today about the lasting mental and physical effects all of this has had on her. Mills initially told the authorities that the accelerator pedal had fallen away from beneath her foot. She couldn't explain what had happened or why she had lost control. In the end, mechanical checks on the car revealed no problems, and she admitted the offence, said she was devastated, ashamed and haunted by what she had done. The judge described the case as an utter tragedy and said he was thinking of the victims as he passed a suspended 18-month prison sentence. But he also referenced Mills' age, ill health and what he described as her previous outstanding character too. He said it would, quote, not profit anybody for her to be immediately jailed. The 96-year-old was also fined, banned from driving. She has already surrendered her licence to the DVLA.
Rob Smith reporting there. Well, next to a series of flood alerts and flood warnings after heavy rain in the northwest today. Yeah,
they stretched from Thornby to Preston and across Manchester. The first warning there was in Cheetham Hill, but the alert warnings have been extended to other parts of the city.
Our correspondent Mel Barham is in Manchester city centre and joins us live now. How's it looking there, Mel?
Well, Zoe, as you can see, it is incredibly wet here tonight, and it has literally not stopped raining all day across our region. And if I move out of the way here, you can see as a result just how swollen the River Ersk is here behind me. You can tell, can't you, just how high the river is going underneath that bridge and the sheer ferocity of the water running along. And that, of course, is the major problem. They are expecting some roads to become immersed, and residents in affected areas are now being told to act now. As you said, the Environment Agency has now issued 8 flood warnings for this River Ersk alone, and that this is in North Manchester. There are also warnings, though, in Maghull, on Merseyside, Bolton and Chorley. And in terms of flood alerts, there are 7 dotted across our region, from the River Alt near Formby to Bury, and a large section of Manchester along the River Irwell, is already causing a lot of travel disruption. Buses are now running instead of trains on Northern between Wigan Walgate and Southport. That's due to the flooding. Meanwhile, the Met Office are warning motorists to take extra care and be aware of lots of surface water on the roads this evening, with some flooding in places. And as ever, the advice from the Environment Agency is to avoid using low-lying footpaths and any bridges near these local watercourses. And if you need to report a flood, you can call the Environment Agency flood line. That is on 0345 988 1188.
All right, Mel, in Manchester, thank you very much.
And Joe will, of course, have the weather forecast later in the programme. Well, next tonight, the lead singer of a rock band who's now in remission from an aggressive cancer thanks to an NHS drug trial in Manchester.
Yes, many of you will remember the 1980s band The Alarm. Well, earlier this year, its frontman, Mike Peters, was forced to cancel a US tour after being diagnosed with a fast-growing lymphoma.
Well, we're happy to say that Mike has been given the all-clear following experimental treatment at the Christie. Doctors now want to find a suitable donor so he can undergo a stem cell transplant.
Anna Yosef reports.
68 Guns became one of rock band The Alarm's biggest hits, a battle cry for youth in the 80s. But over the years, frontman Mike Peters has faced many battles of his own. He was first diagnosed with cancer more than 29 years ago.
I've lived with chronic lymphocytic leukemia for most of my life now, and it's been, really challenging, not just for me but my whole family and our whole audience, because they get pulled into the vortex of cancer through me as well, and they live it with me. When they come to a show and they see I've just had treatment in the week, they're with me all the way, and they've really supported me and allowed me to keep mentally strong to survive the ordeal of cancer.
After numerous drug treatments and rounds of chemotherapy, Mike thought his cancer was being held in check. But in April, 5 days before going on tour in America, he noticed a lump in his neck. He was diagnosed with Richter syndrome.
Of course, you go on the internet and it says I've got 2 months to live without treatment, and it became really scary. We had to pull the whole tour, and then luckily for me, the Christie got me on a clinical trial that saved my life.
The treatment involved taking a new combination of blood cancer drugs alongside chemotherapy. The results of the trial have been incredible, haven't they?
To be told I'm in complete remission after being given a diagnosis of Richter syndrome is miraculous. And I'm so grateful to Professor Bloor and the team here at the Christie for giving me that chance at life, and also to the Stella trial that's created the conditions for me to eradicate the disease from my body right now and be in a position to accept a stem cell transplant from an unrelated matched donor, someone on the blood stem cell donor registry.
Richter syndrome is rare. It's not something that we see very frequently, but it's really bad news. Life expectancy for most of our patients with this is only measured in months. Identifying new treatments is really, really important, and this trial, we hope, can transform the outcome for our patients with this really difficult disease.
While Mike waits for a match with a stem cell donor, he'll do what he's always done, play music. Anna Yosef, ITV News.
Glad to see and hear that Mike is in remission. OK, now to more of the day's news, and 2 teenagers are still in a critical condition in hospital after being hit by a car in Manchester city centre. The incident happened on Whitworth Street West near Deansgate Locks on Saturday night. Police say a car mounted the curb before hitting a man and a woman who were both 18. A 30-year-old woman has been bailed after being questioned by police.
The animal rights charity PETA is calling for the use of police dogs to be phased out after some were injured during the violent disorder this summer. The charity says 3 Merseyside police dogs were hit with bricks, burned and strangled while on duty during the riots in Southport. PETA has called for forces to use safer, modern policing technology to replace dogs. Merseyside Police have been approached for comment.
Cheshire East Council says its first solar farm has started providing green energy to the power grid in Crewe. The facility, Leighton Grange, is designed to produce enough power for about 1,200 houses. It's being built as part of the council's commitment for the borough to become carbon neutral by 2047.
Well, next, it's been described as a monumental rebuilding task, turning the fortunes of the Conservative Party around after their humiliating election defeat in the North West and beyond.
Yeah, left the Tories with just 3 MPs in our region, down from 26, including losing all 9 of their MPs in Greater Manchester.
Now, 4 candidates are setting out their stall to lead the party at their annual conference in Birmingham.
We asked all of them to come on camera for a quick chat about their ambitions for the North West. Here are the ones who've said yes so far.
We are absolutely committed to make sure the talent that's spread all over the country, particularly in the North West, is truly unlocked. Now, there's 2 ways of doing that. There's through subsidies, but that requires a lot of public money. What I want to see is the kind of thing that works in Tees Valley on the other side of the country, which is less tax, less regulation. It attracts inward investment, attracts business.
We need to deliver across the entire United Kingdom, and we've seen huge amounts of money going into different communities. But levelling up, let's be honest, it's not about a cash transfer, it's about an opportunity transfer. It's about connecting communities so they can grow, and that's why I'm committed to investing in infrastructure, investing in the connections between our communities, and reforming the way in which we build not just homes but also businesses.
Yeah, so 2 Conservative leadership hopefuls there, and finding a path to recover then is very much on the minds of local leaders at the Tory party conference, where our political correspondent Leisha McNally now reports.
They're back in Birmingham, back in opposition and backing 4 different party leaders. So are the Tories now in tatters, or is this the start of a new era?
We have just suffered the worst election defeat in our history. So actually this is a really important conference, because this is where the Conservative Party builds back from. And we need to have the leader to show the public that we are ready again to enter government at the next election.
So which leader should that be?
Kemi Badenoch.
Why?
I think Kemi is not afraid to say the things that need to be said. She's not afraid to challenge some of the status quos of government.
So is this contest enough to cheer the Conservative crowd, having to reflect on a difficult year? There's no doubt this is a quieter conference than usual. In the old days, you couldn't walk through this hall without meeting a dozen North West Conservative MPs. Now, all but 3 are out of a job. But winners and losers both say the party desperately needs a new direction and a leader who can move them onwards and upwards.
People could see that we had intentions, perhaps the right intentions in many areas, but we didn't deliver across the board. And I think after 14 years, people said, you've had your chance, let someone else have a go.
So who are you backing and why?
I'm backing Tom Tungda because I think he has the ability to cut through with the country. He's highly intelligent, highly able, and he'll be able to get pragmatically that policy agenda we need in 4 or 5 years' time.
And are you tempted to fight for your seat again then?
I'm very tempted, but I think I'll leave that decision till further down the line.
The more pressing decision, of course, is who will lead them to that fight. And the warning from local leaders is this has to be a once-in-a-parliament choice.
We've got to work hard. We've got to be realistic that we lost the trust of people over a long period of time, and that's because we were focusing too inward. We weren't looking out to the people in the country, to the people in Lancashire that I represent, listening to what they are saying. So that's what we need to do. We can get it back really quickly, but once we choose our leader, we have to stick with them and really support them and work really hard for them.
Of course, it's not the party faithful the new leader will ultimately have to convince. It's the voters that turned away in their thousands from North West seats that for years were true blue, like here in Altrincham.
I did vote Labour because they couldn't make any more mess than what was happening in the country anyway.
Whoever's in, they do the same thing.
So I'm a bit disappointed about Labour getting in, but I'm not surprised Conservative went.
Bring Boris Johnson back, that'd be better.
Not much chance of that right now, but also exiting the political stage, the former Prime Minister.
And with that, I hand this conference over to them. Thank you very much.
Rishi Sunak has already been and gone from his party conference, but the drama certainly continues behind him to decide who will ultimately step into the spotlight. Leisha McNally, ITV News, Birmingham.
Still to come this evening.
Ten Hag under more pressure after the loss that had fans heading early for the exits.
And after a very wet start to the working week, some better news on the horizon for the next few days. The ground should be allowed just to absorb some of the rainfall we've seen over the last 48 hours. I'll have the full forecast in just a few minutes.
And here's Mary with details of the ITV News a little later on.
Coming up on the ITV Evening News, the BBC apologises to Amanda Abbington, accepting she had been bullied on Strictly Come Dancing. The final blast furnace in Port Talbot goes cold, marking the end of an industrial era in Wales and costing thousands of jobs. And cruise ship passengers stranded in Belfast finally set sail 4 months later than planned. Will you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Well, on to sport now, and could time be running out for Erik ten Hag, Chris?
Well, he bought himself a contract extension when he won the FA Cup just 4 months ago, but now there is increasing speculation that Erik ten Hag's days as Manchester United manager are nearly over. The spotlight on the Dutchman now even more intense after United's 3-0 home defeat to Spurs yesterday, as David Chisnell reports.
We were terrible. We were terrible to watch. It was a terrible kind of representation of who we are and what we are right now.
This, I think, we all made in togetherness this decision on one page, on one boat, together.
Well, United have won the League Cup and the FA Cup under Ten Hag since he joined in 2022, but those trophies haven't stopped his future being questioned in the past.
It does feel like it's getting towards the end game now.
Once again, it's the hot topic among supporters, with a once largely loyal fan base now turning.
From what I saw in the ground yesterday, it felt like that. It felt like there was a change. It felt like a lot of fans who'd previously been backing a manager, who'd supported him, had sort of turned against him, had had enough, and you can understand where we're at with Erik ten Hag off the back of last season and going into this season, and that's just unsustainable.
Ten Hag was given a year extension to his contract after a review in the summer, but if the club are now to change their minds, who would come in?
They interviewed a lot of options in the summer and went, you're not good enough. The other option is Ruud van Nistelrooy is a sort of temporary or caretaker job, but then you think, well, he's there now as part of the reason why we're losing these games. If he's the assistant manager and one of the head coaches, does he play no role in the fact that we put in a performance like that against Tottenham?
It's a big week for all at the club, as Ten Hag has 2 matches to save his job, with away trips to Porto in the Europa League, followed by Aston Villa in the Premier League. David Chisnell, ITV News, Manchester.
Well, 7 games into the new Championship season and Blackburn Rovers are still unbeaten. They beat QPR 2-0 at Ewood Park to move within a point of leaders West Brom and above Burnley, who were held to a goalless draw at Oxford. Elsewhere, Preston lost, but in League One, Bolton were 2-0 winners at Crawley. Blackpool made it 4 straight wins under new boss Steve Bruce, beating Burton 3-0. Stockport County found an injury-time equaliser to rescue a 1-1 draw at Barnsley, while Wigan Athletic were held to a goalless draw by Exeter City. In League Two, struggling Morecambe held Notts County to a 1-1 draw. There were defeats for Barrow and Crewe, but Fleetwood won 2-0 at Cheltenham Town. Manchester City have their first Women's Super League success of the new season. They beat Brighton 1-0 to add to their draw with Arsenal from their opening game. Manchester United made it 2 wins from 2, beating Everton 1-0, while Liverpool were held to a 1-1 draw at West Ham. In Rugby Super League, Warrington are just 1 win from a place in the grand final after a thrilling victory over St Helens. The Wolves were seconds from victory until a try from St John Bennison and Mark Percival's conversion with the final hooter sounding sent the match into golden point extra time. George Williams, though, kept his cool to clinch Warrington's first playoff win for 6 years and set up a trip to Hull KR in the semi-final. Lee Leopards, who won on Friday, will head to Wigan. Sadly, Warrington's boxing world champion Rhiannon Dixon couldn't make it a double celebration for the town. She lost her WBO lightweight belt to Terry Harper in Sheffield. She went down fighting, though, the first loss of her career coming by way of a unanimous points decision. Harper is now a 3-weight world champion.
getting that winning feeling. FOW, sponsors of the Granada Sport Report.
Finally, from me to the sad news for Lancashire cricket fans. They'll start next season in Division 2 of the County Championship. Their relegation confirmed after they failed to beat Worcester. It's the 4th time Lancashire have been relegated since they last won the title in 2011. I'm sure they'll bounce back, though, next year.
Yeah, what a shame for Lancashire. OK, Chris, cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if you get fed up of mowing the lawn once a week or tackling a bit of weed stripping, spare a thought for the gardeners at Levens Hall in Cumbria.
Yes, every year they spend hours and hours trimming away in the world's oldest topiary garden.
Topiary is the art of clipping shrubs or trees into ornamental shapes, but that's certainly easier said than done, as Paul Crone discovered.
There's very little room for error when you're aiming for perfection in the world's oldest topiary garden. One careless snip can spoil this amazing horticultural spectacle at Levens Hall near Kendal. Dating back to the 1690s, the 10 acres of gardens are a sight to behold for visitors, and the trusty team of gardeners are certainly on top of their topiary.
Historically, the main ones have been box and yew. They're both evergreens, they've both got tiny little leaves, and so when you clip them, you can get a shape in them, whereas not a lot of things you can do, or you could have to do a bigger scale. So box and yew are the trees, and we've got about 100 different ones in this garden.
Almost every bush and shrub has a name, from the great umbrella to this star attraction, Darth Vader. And over the next couple of months, it's that time of year for each piece to be carefully trimmed. Not easy when you're working up close and personal.
Often the instruction is snip a bit, stand back and take a look, but here in the garden, or certainly up there, we can't stand back. We have to have the mental image of what it's going to be and go for it.
This old film shows Levens Hall back in 1936.
Cypress, box and yew are trimmed by ordinary shears into the most fascinating shapes, from giant sunshades to prehistoric animals.
And the great umbrella is still going strong today, as is the rest of the topiary garden.
These have been carried on by generations of gardeners through this garden, and they will be carried on way beyond my time as well. That's what I love about it, continuity. Uh-oh, oopsie. Paul Crone, ITV News, Levens Hall.
What a talent. I would love to be able to do that.
Do you know what? I would love to see one of them go really rogue, though.
Yeah. And do what?
Create something wild.
Here's Joe.
Mum, wet wipes, toilet or bin?
Bin. Why?
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada Weather.
Hello again, a very good evening to you. After a wet start to the working week, our weather will be improving from tonight. Rain eases off. In general, tomorrow will be a good deal drier for the northwest of England and the Isle of Man. And high pressure begins to build in from Wednesday, giving us a fine end to the working week. Now, this low pressure, which has been positioned across the UK yesterday and today, very gradually pulls eastwards and away, and that's going to allow much drier and brighter conditions from tomorrow afternoon onwards for the next few days, just allowing the very saturated ground here in the northwest to absorb some of the significant rainfall we've seen in recent days. For a time this evening, still plenty of water on the region's roads, so just exercise caution if you're out and about. It will be better in general after midnight. Drier conditions, low cloud and mistiness, winds going northerly, and temperatures in general staying around 9 or 10 degrees. Most of us should have a generally dry start to the day tomorrow, when the sun will be rising at 7:14, setting at 6:46. A better rush hour in prospect tomorrow morning, certainly than it was today. Drier with a bit of brightness perhaps through the afternoon, but for most places there will be more cloud. And for the Lakeland Fells and the Pennines, a little bit of drizzle here and there. The most important thing is it's a much drier day, and into the afternoon temperatures will reach 15 degrees, with the northerly wind feeling cool though. Looking ahead, and from Wednesday with that high pressure beginning to build in, it's looking a bit cheerier on the maps. Wednesday, Thursday and Friday are dry and bright. Temperatures doing well for the time of year by day. By night, under any clear spells, just beginning to dip away. Rurally, perhaps a touch of grass frost as we go through the next few nights. Bye-bye.
Cleaned up well.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada Weather.
With Halloween round the corner, you can make a witch's hat out of a hedge.
That's a great idea. I challenge you to do that.
We'll go practicing. Bye-bye.
Good night.